This is Angela Hoppy, all aboard the Hot Mess Express. Today I'm sitting with Lindsey Kramer. She is with Baton Rouge Event Planning and Design. And today we're just casually chit-chatting about planners and weddings and life and all that good stuff. So thank y'all for joining, and we're hoping to keep this short and sweet. We've got some drinks though, so we may be here for a hot minute.
Yes.
So Lindsey, I just wanted to kind of just chit chat about some experiences that me as a wedding photographer and videographer have had recently. And it honestly wasn't until we chatted back in January where I hadn't really made the connection on the need for a wedding planner versus a private wedding planner versus a venue coordinator. And so I just want you to kind of explain to me what the differences are from your perspective, and then we'll just kind of share some experiences that further just proves the point that you need to hire your Lindsey. You can hire me.
Yes.
And really hire a private wedding coordinator or planner for your wedding day, even if your venue provides a day of coordinator.
Yes.
So just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, what the big differences are between the two.
Okay, so to think about it this way, you have a venue coordinator and you have what I'm going to call like your personal coordinator, planner, the person that you picked, you hired, you did your research. Your venue coordinator is hired by the venue. Their main priority is first the venue, and then it's the service that they're going to provide to you. Yeah, they're going to call your vendors to see, or they might call your vendors to see when are they coming, but it's strictly just to make sure they understand the venue guidelines and what they as a venue are going to expect.
Right.
Whereas if you do your research and interview pretty much your, let's say, 3 options for a planner or coordinator, you get to pick who you want to vibe with the most. And not only that, you're working with a small business, because we're all small businesses.
Right.
And so from there, we know the priorities are now shifted, where you are putting all of your needs, wants, concerns, everything like that on this one person,
right,
or their team. And then in return, like for me, my main priority is the bride.
Right.
And then like bride and groom, their family, and then it goes to the vendors. I'm checking in with the photographer saying like, hey girl, do you need something to drink? Or hey, you know, whatever. What time are you going to be arriving? And they told me that their concerns are this, can you talk about them?
Right.
And so I'm taking that, for me, my coordinating packages is 4 to 6 weeks before, and we meet in person, and I'm going to hear all your concerns, like, hey, I have this concern that the baker hasn't answered me, they may not show up.
Yeah,
and I don't really know.
I'm glad that you brought that up too, because as a photographer, the only time I've ever been contacted before somebody's wedding by a coordinator is if they hired an independent coordinator.
Yeah.
I have never been contacted to say, hey, are you still coming?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you know, my client is trying to pay their last invoice and they're not able to do it.
And a venue coordinator is not going to go that far, because that venue coordinator also has 3 other weddings that weekend, plus that whole month is completely full. They are looking over your paperwork saying like, all right team, this week we have Joe Blow and Mary Sue on Friday, we got Mary Ellen and this one on Saturday, and on Sunday we gonna have to just clean up everything.
Right.
They don't know how many photographers are coming. They don't know how long they're contracted for. And if you're leaving early, they don't know that. But as me, I know you're supposed to be there from this time to this time, and I know if you're trying to cut out early, or I know if you're 30 minutes late, and that's not what they paid for, so we're gonna make up with it at the end. Or, you know, whatever the case may be. And also, I had a wedding once where the baker calls me during formal photos to say that the 5-tier smooth buttercream cake fell in the back seat. They weren't going to call the venue, which was a hotel,
and they never
had
would
their
have.
person.
They
who
never
had
would
a
have.
coordinator.
They would have been calling the bride and
They would have called the mom or the
Yeah.
bride or whatever. And then she told me, what do I do? I'm like, well, first of all, I can't bake. So
First of
you'll
all, I'm
figure
not
that
a baker.
I don't know how icing works. so it ended up being a 3-tiered, heavily piped cake.
Yeah.
And it's not what the bride ordered. And so I had to tell her, hey, before you go out there, I just want you to know it's not what you're expecting.
But also at the same time, look at the bright side. Had there not been a private coordinator, they wouldn't have had a cake.
No.
Right? Or
No,
they
'cause
would have
I
had
made-
like a sheet cake from Walmart.
Right.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Whatever, if that's your jam.
But I made the executive decision, turn around, go back home, bring whatever you can.
Yeah.
Bring the groom's cake, whatever you can.
Right.
And then we'll go from there. We'll discuss logistics. But had that not been, she would have just been like, I guess I'll just show up really late, and then everyone would have been
Right.
like, where's the cake?
Yeah.
Where I already knew.
Right.
I already knew where it was. I knew what was happening.
Yeah. And you were able to field a solution instead of like,
That's on you.
guess
You
we're
know?
gonna be late, you
Yeah.
know, or guess we're not gonna have a cake or whatever. And the bride never had to wonder what the solution is. She knew it was gonna be because you were able to communicate with her in person.
And just from these past few venue tours I've had to do, I really want to say this. Venue coordinators go more than just fluffing your dress and sending you down the aisle. Coordinator in general, but those venue coordinators, they make it sound so pretty.
Yeah.
They make it sound that it is, I'm gonna line y'all up, make sure y'all are good to go, I'm gonna fluff your dress and send you down the aisle. Yeah, but how much work goes into it before?
Right.
How do I know that you're not sticking the sign-in table at the wrong location that we've already walked through and talked about?
Right.
Now, I do lean on, if they say they have a venue coordinator, I do lean on them for the venue aspects. If you spilled a drink on the dance floor, I need a mom.
That venue coordinator. Or,
Right.
hey, we're getting ready for the cake cutting. I need to get where are the champagne?
Yeah.
You know,
Why
like,
isn't
can
why
you
weren't they
gather
out
those?
yet?
Yeah. But at the same time, you're that lead person on that day. And as a photographer too, I find myself when I'm working with a venue who has their in-house coordinator, there's a couple things that I observe. Number one, they're usually on the very young side, so we're talking 19, 20-year-olds, which there's nothing wrong with that if they have the personality for it. But generally, they're either not assertive enough or they're too assertive. So that alone can play into...
And they are used to the cookie cutter their way.
Yeah.
They only do weddings at their venue.
Yeah.
So they only know a 1 or 2 ways to do
However
it.
they've been trained to do it.
However they've been trained. I've trained myself. I have had no one else to come train me. I worked at venues twice and things like that, but I'm at a new venue, learning all the new ways to do it, and learning from that, I know how different situations can happen. So I get asked all the time, well, have you coordinated here before? No, I haven't, but I'll never touch every single venue in Louisiana. I won't.
Right. Yeah.
And so I've actually lost some jobs because of that, because I've never done it there.
That's true of photography too.
Yeah.
They're like, well, have you photographed at my venue? And it's like, well, no. I mean, that would be impossible for me to photograph at every venue.
Exactly.
But what I can tell you is I've looked extensively into your venue, and I'm very, very familiar with it.
Not only that, but because I haven't worked there, I've worked at all these other ones. I know how to adjust. I know how to pivot.
And you're not tainted by that, by whatever mindset is like in that culture.
Those venue coordinators are hired and getting a paycheck by that venue to make sure that that day goes just well enough.
Right. Well, and the thing is too is like, so let's say it doesn't go well, and the bride and groom come back and they complain. The coordinator has there's no skin in the game. It's not her small business. You know, there's no, so what if they get a bad word of mouth referral or whatever, you know, the weight is not the same.
And then if their manager will then come and say, well, what happened? Oh, well, this is my side of it. This is what happened. But I'm trying to keep my job. So, you know, whereas something bad happens with me, I am continually following up until either the bride gets justice and gets what she deserves, or I tell the bride, look, this might have been on me. Like, I didn't follow through on this, or hey, that venue coordinator who was working alongside with me actually did mess this up.
Yeah.
You know, and then I can tell their manager if something were to get out of hand. the most part, I can mediate the situation. And
I mean, it's in your best interest to be proactive.
Yeah.
It's in your best interest to look for potential issues and potential things that are just going to blow up.
If anyone had followed me from the get-go, September of last year, anyone that knows me knows the situation. A bar didn't show up to a wedding. They had a venue person. She never came out of her office. She sat in it. Her office had a window to the reception area. She never told us like what could and could not be brought in or anything. So she thanked this bride. I was a month up, so I came in last minute, a month up. The bar confirmed with me at noon that they were coming and they'll be there for 4. We were taking pictures of their bar back, their table, make sure it was good enough or not. They never showed. I then had to leap into action while lining up the wedding party, tell the mom, hey, I need your credit card, or you can tell me what you want to spend. The bussers that we had hired for that evening also had liquor licenses.
That's perfect.
Them and my assistant ran to Rouse's to get beer, just like basics, beer, wine, water, ice, an ice chest, those kind of things.
Yeah.
The maid of honor hopped in and got a margarita machine delivered. I don't know how she...
How did you do that in like an hour?
While standing in a wedding.
Yeah.
I have no idea how it really happened,
But I know a guy.
but I know 30 minutes in to the reception, she had a margarita machine. Well, they plugged it in, and the venue coordinator got upset because it was taking too much electricity. But she never told
Was
me.
she out there
no.
looking at the little electricity meter?
No. Well, and she also never got up to say, all right, how can I assist?
Right.
Wait, can we provide ice and water out the fridge right now?
Right.
Nothing. So I hopped in on my own and did that. So what if I wouldn't have been there?
Right.
The mom and the uncle.
It would have just been like,
The mom and the uncle would have missed the ceremony. The bride's mom and the bride's uncle. And they would have gone and got everything.
Right.
But because I was there, I was able to take care of it.
Right.
And they had a venue person. She didn't do anything.
Right.
Now, maybe she would have hopped in and done something if I wouldn't have been there, but I can't guarantee that.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't to say either that like all venue coordinators are shit.
They are.
You know?
I've worked with some amazing.
And I think that they do have a job. I mean, they have an important job.
Yes.
Like they're there making sure that the venue is ready to go when you get there.
Exactly.
You know, they're doing all that prep work
There is a certain level of it where if there is a venue coordinator, I expect the tables to be in the layout that I let them know it needed to be in.
Yeah.
I expect that if they have to take care of the buffet, that their buffet setup is ready to go to when the food arrives.
Right.
It's there. So there is certain things. I mean, I expected the lights to be able to be turned on.
Right.
There's like no issues with that.
Yeah.
I expect the bathrooms to be clean. Like, yes, a venue coordinator 100%.
Coordinates the venue.
They coordinate the
Not
venue, and it's a
necessarily just
very
the lighting.
important part of it as well. I also need to walk up to them and say, we need to dim these lights. I don't know where their lights are.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I don't know venues that well because that's their job to know it, not mine.
Yeah, and so this kind of like furthers your point of like, even though the venue has a coordinator,
Exactly.
does it mean that you cannot have or that it does mean that you don't have to go with a private coordinator, but it's in your best interest to do that.
Let me just explain this, and I'm a little different than other planners and coordinators. They ain't going to your hotel to steam your dresses. They're not going to your hotel to clean up the trash for when the photographer gets there, it's ready to go. They're not going to help the photographer and set up the dresses in the best place that I think and the photographers always move them, but it just helps. They're not going to make sure that your details are in a shoebox ready to go when they get there.
Right.
They're not making sure that the photographer's on time.
They're
and
making
getting
sure the
dressed.
ceremony starts. They're making sure
Which
that
is all important.
people, it is important.
But as a private, personal, you hired me, coordinator, planner, I'm taking that next step where they don't have to. They're getting paid no matter what.
Yeah, you're invested in the couple.
I'm invested 100%. And I'm not only invested in the couple, I'm invested in the experience.
Yeah.
You get one wedding day, hopefully. Your parents have thought about this day for you. Mom is drinking her mimosa on the couch.
Yeah.
She is not trying to steam your dress.
Right.
Bridesmaids, I understand that bridesmaids, that's kind of what you sign up for, maid of honor.
But at
if
the
they
same
don't
time,
have to,
so I'm gonna stop
better.
you. So yes, they all can do those things.
Mhm.
But whether or not they, one, think about it,
Yeah.
and two,
Well,
have the
two.
supplies to do it.
And yeah.
So
There's
and
so
when-
many
when
times
to do it.
There is so many times I walked in and they're using a cheap steamer and they've gone over that same spot 10 times and I'm like, hold
Yeah.
on, grab out my steamer, go over
Yeah.
it once, and we're done with one dress in
Right.
2 minutes.
Right.
And we moving on to the next one. And also certain materials require certain steaming
Right.
techniques that
Yeah.
yes, you don't want to have to worry that your Mikado satin dress isn't going to be held with a steamer too long and now
Yeah.
you have burn stain.
Yeah.
That's going to show. Whereas lace, it wouldn't show as much.
Right.
Not saying that every coordinator is going to do this because I know plenty that don't. But I know that that was a big thing on my wedding day was who's going to steam my dress.
Yeah.
Now I don't.
Because it ain't gonna be me.
No, I know that they don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Because I go and do it. Also, it's that the look on the bride's face when I walk in. It's like
Relief.
she's here.
Yeah.
She's here.
Yeah. Because you have that relationship with them. And it's
They
not
call
like
me the wedding bestie for a reason.
Exactly. It's like I can text you and say, hey, I'm concerned about this. Like, how would we handle this situation? Because the likelihood of it is most of the brides we deal with, this is their first wedding.
Yeah.
They may have been in a wedding before.
They
but
may have
this
been
is their,
in, yeah.
Yeah, but this is their first wedding. And they don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
No.
And so, and also just like I wanna circle back on just like your investment in the couple versus the security of the venue. And so I shot recently, I won't say when or where or whatever, but I did shoot recently at a venue. And as the photographer, I'm a very hands-on photographer, and something that I do for my couples, a lot of my timeline that I set up is going to happen before the ceremony because I have all those little bitty things. that I need to make sure that I capture. So for me, a lot of my planning is going to happen before that ceremony.
Yeah.
I don't care necessarily when your cake cutting happens or when the bouquet toss happens, but the planner is going to have that.
That matters.
Yeah, that matters.
It so matters.
It so matters to you because, and I'm going to give you an example of why it matters. So I recently shot a wedding, and I arrived at 5 o'clock. Which it was a short, you know.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of all the things.
Yep. Their ceremony was at 7, and the venue, they had the venue until 10:30. But they only had the photographer until 10. So at 9 o'clock, we hadn't done the bouquet toss.
No.
We hadn't done the garter toss. We hadn't done the cake cutting.
Cake cutting goes right after the dancing.
We hadn't done, and all of these things, and from my perspective, I don't care because what for me, it's well, if the couple if they were the ones that said, no, I want to wait for this, I really want to just eat right now. That's fine for me because I don't care what happens as long as it happens before 10.
Yeah.
And for me, being the photographer who I have a timeline set up and I have in my head, I've met with my couples, I know what I'm expecting, but I know that what you expect isn't always what you get.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily 100% invested in sticking to the timeline because why? I'm going to capture it no matter when it happens.
And you see, with me, that timeline, I'm going to wiggle. I have that flexibility. I know that things aren't going to happen when but from the ceremony on, no matter what time it happens, it's going to happen in this order.
Right.
You go down the aisle, you say I do, you kiss, you come back up the aisle. If you didn't have a first look, you do all your formals.
Right.
Then you're going to have your private dinner. You're going to get introduced. You do your first dance, all your other formal dances. You go straight into cake cutting for your photos. Mm-hmm. Your wedding party, if we're able to grab them all again, they are already halfway drunk, if not drunk.
Well, and that goes back to my story, right? So we roll up on 9 o'clock, and it's time to cut the cake.
Yeah.
You can't find any of the bridal party.
No.
You can't. The bride is half drunk, falling asleep.
And there's no
and it's like, well, it is what it is. Like it is what it is. But I also,
And see, that's when yeah, I know that you'll get that captured no matter what time, but that's when she would have said, no, I want to eat right now. All right, well, right when you're done, I'm pulling you no matter what. This is happening. Trust me. And at this point, I built that. It's almost done that they already know. Lindsey knows what she's talking about.
Exactly.
Let's just do it.
Yeah, and as from my perspective, so I have, in that specific situation, I have people coming up to me because the coordinator is not keeping anybody on task, and so, but I also don't want to overstep and say, oh yeah, we're going to do this next, because that's not what they hired me to do.
Right.
I can do that, and sometimes, unfortunately, I have to go, well, but then I'm also interrupting the bride to make sure that that's what she wants to do.
Yeah, and at that point, I would have already talked to her about it. I have my set questions. Do you want your wedding party there at the cake cutting?
Yeah, exactly.
And if they say yes, I'm saying, okay, in the instance that they're scattered and I cannot find them,
what do you want?
Is it okay that we just go ahead and do that without them?
Right.
And they say yes. Then I say, we're in Louisiana. Most people want beer instead of champagne. Do you want everyone to go through and have to do champagne, or are you good with them raising their beer?
Yeah.
Let them raise the beer, like whatever.
Right.
So it's those certain things.
And those are the little questions that matter.
And
because somebody is asking those questions, but they're asking it the day of.
Yeah.
And it's usually me, because I'm going, oh, you only have 2 champagne flutes here. Does everybody get one? And I'm asking those questions, but man, those are things that really should
be. A bride doesn't want to have to be like, God, really, no one knows this but me. So yeah, they have to ask me.
Yep.
And you know, look, a lot of the venue coordinators that I've worked with, the good ones, they will ask those questions because they are prepared and they are organized.
Right.
But there is some that the venue manager's getting that information, but then it's going to get handed down to their coordinator, and the coordinator's not going to read it the day she gets it. And then she's trying to find that piece of paper. She's like, do you know?
And another thing with working with private coordinators or planners is, because I get that communication ahead of time, I know when Lindsey is planning to do the cake cutting. I know when that bouquet toss happens. And so even if it doesn't happen on time, I know that, okay, I've got 10 minutes, I can go to the bathroom. And another thing is,
there's so many times I'm pulling people out of the buffet line.
Yep.
I'm like, you have my timeline.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know when I shouldn't be going to the restroom, when I should.
Or if people coordinate with or talk to me, hey, look, I really need to go. I haven't gone since I got here. And I'm like, all right, totally fine. Like, what's 2 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, the bride's not saying, oh my God, it's 9:02. I need to do this. Like,
yeah. It's just so much better to have somebody who's completely invested both before and during and even after the wedding. You know, like,
the other big thing about a venue coordinator, 9 out of 10 times they're not building a timeline, and it falls on you.
Yeah, which honestly I don't mind.
But a lot do,
because I know how long it takes me to get what I need to get. And so that's why a lot of the times when I have my couples meeting, I meet with my couples a month before their wedding, and I ask them all the questions that I need answers to. And I prefer, and I'm a very organized person.
But are you, and I know we're just talking for you, do you call the DJ and say, hey, this is going to happen around this time? Or do you call the videographer and say, hey, I'm planning on this, you good with it, can you get that?
Absolutely not.
See, and I will.
Something I'll do is I will share with my couples. I'll say, hey, this is my proposed timeline. This is what I'm suggesting. Feel free to share it with your friends, family, and vendors. And if there's any issues, then I expect that they will be communicated to me.
Right.
And a lot of the times, I mean, and here's the thing, it's like, my timeline is not the end all be all. And I tell my people that, look, I understand that I can plan and plan and plan and plan, and on your wedding day it may not happen. And that's an expectation I have. But that's where that wedding coordinator and planner comes in, is like, they have that final timeline. And so when the DJ comes to me and says, hey, when are we doing the bouquet toss, I am not going to tell you anything, because I do not want to tell you we're doing it right now, and the planner comes to me and goes, why are you doing the bouquet toss? So and that makes it hard when you have a crafty venue coordinator, because it's like, well, I don't want to not be the leader here because clearly there needs to be a leader in this space. But I'm not going to be the photographer who the venue goes, I don't want to work with her anymore because
she overstepped. So just to kind of explain like my process on whenever I'm doing the timeline, I have my general, like, okay, you can get in at 9 a.m. The ceremony starts here. You're doing a first look, so it's probably going to fall around here. Photographer's getting here at this time, and videographer here. So this is typically what's probably going to happen. And then I have like my usual ceremony, unless we have some other odd things thrown in. But I have that on my Google Doc. I share it to the photographer and the videographer. My next step is, hey photographer, let's schedule a time to talk.
Yeah.
Also, check your email. I shared a Google Doc with you.
Yep.
We get on the phone, we're running through it. By the time at the end of it, we probably are both saying this is going to be an easy day.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Then from there, I email the videographer and say, hey, this is what we came up with. Do you have any edits?
Right.
Do we have any edits? No. Then from there, about either like a week and a half or the Monday of your wedding, I send it in a nice little email. It's a link
It goes
to all your vendors. And it's a link straight to that, and then they can comment if something needs to be changed.
Yeah.
From there, if they do comment, I then can call them and say, hey, like, real quick, why? Like, just inform me.
Yeah.
And if they're like, oh, well, in my experience, this took a little longer.
Yeah.
Okay, but why?
Right.
Is it just because you lagged a little bit on that, or is there something that I don't know that no one else knows either?
Well, and that's the thing too, is like everybody is going to capture a love story completely different.
Right.
Like everybody, I mean, you capture the same things, like the same things happen on a wedding day, but the way that you capture it and the dedication that you give to each part of the day is going to be different depending on what you value.
Yeah.
And for me, I know that, and I'm a pretty efficient worker. Like I know that. I know the minimum that I need to do to be able to deliver a story that I want to tell.
And look, and I don't know that for you. I had a photographer say, I need an hour for details. And I'm like,
I usually block 45 minutes.
I'm like, dang, an hour for details. Like, okay, well, maybe she's talking dresses. She's talking this, she's talking that. Like, maybe that's the hour. Okay, no problem. I'm down for that.
Right.
That gives me some downtime too, because they're finishing up makeup, you're doing details, I know you're here now.
Right.
But also the venue coordinator, it's a little different because vendors want to impress the venue coordinator because they want to get either on their preferred list or they
not when you're Angela Hoppy, because I'm pretty sure I'm already blocked at one. I'll just tell you that story in a second.
But when it comes to a venue reaching out to the vendors, they're like, hey, this is coming up, or email, hey, this is coming up, what time are you coming?
Yeah.
Or here's the load in, or whatever. For me, this is potentially a new vendor. It is a relationship that I'm possibly gonna build that, like, from last weekend, I have already referred that photographer to 3 of my couples.
Right.
Based off of the good experience in a not so great situation.
Yeah.
But we had already established a relationship before the wedding, before I even met her.
Right.
Because I picked up the phone and asked her opinion.
Yep.
It's a vendor team. It's not, oh, that's the VJ and this is it's a whole vendor team on your day.
Yeah.
And it's not just the venue. And then that venue sees thousands of different vendors within a year's span. And I mean, I do too. And I know which ones we connect and I know which ones don't. But from the get-go, I don't know you. Yeah. So I have my, hey, I'm introducing myself, also reaching out about these questions. And so from there, plus if they follow me on Instagram, they already see how I am. But I'm building relationships when the venue is just trying to execute a wedding.
Right.
I'm taking these people further with me where they know that being nice to a vendor, a planner, is going to take them a lot
I mean,
further.
honestly, if you're watching this and hopefully you forgot we were recording. Hopefully we're still recording. If you're a wedding vendor, you have got to get in with your wedding planners because in front of, okay, so behind, I would say what most of your couples already have a venue, right? And then they hire you? Or
So lately it's been not the
opposite?
case.
Okay, so I'm going to say my ignorant assumption
Most.
would be that the couple is going to book their venue, then they're going to book their planner, and then they're going to book their photographer.
Look, and let me tell you, okay, prime example, new full planning client. She didn't have a venue at all. I went to her venue tours with her, booked a venue on Monday, turned around and Monday night we talked about photographers. So venue was booked on Monday. Monday night we're talking photographers and videographers. On Tuesday she booked both of them.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
And that just goes to show the weight that your referral holds. I mean, like,
and look, the videographer was one that I have worked with plenty. I've hired her for myself, but I gave her not only that referral, 2 others that I haven't worked with.
right.
And I could talk highly about one, but also look, here's the pros for these other 2.
Right.
And she picked the one I
Yeah.
happened to work with. And the photographer, same thing, gave her 3 very good recommendations and talked about the pros and cons of each. And she made her ultimate decision. I didn't sway her one way or another. And she booked a very good photographer.
And that's another thing too, is like we're kind of getting into like a different topic.
Doesn't matter.
Write this down as like a good
Doesn't
topic
matter.
to talk about, because Lindsey is starting her,
Gosh.
maybe starting her podcast.
Fingers
But
crossed.
just like vendor referrals, how they are the strongest referrals, because when you say I trust this person, you're also saying I trust who they're going to send me to, and I can assume that I'm going to have a similar experience with these vendors that I'm going to have with this planner. And so, I mean, and the difference in me as a client trusting your word versus a whole venue's word.
Look,
is
that
a
venue,
lot of the times,
all 3 of them that I have toured recently handed me a packet, stapled, had lists.
yep,
One of them
recommended
said,
vendors.
"Ooh, I need to edit that and put you on there." And I'm like, duh, like
Yeah.
please do. But the thing is, I looked at them and it was none that I really had heard
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
Like not just coordinators, but just florists, bakers, those kind of things. And I'm like, so they're typing this up. This could have been done 2 years ago.
Yeah, and
And they're only editing it to take people off that have done them wrong.
absolutely.
They're not adding new and keeping it updated.
And what they don't tell you is sometimes you, as a vendor, you have to pay for that ad space. You're paying
Yeah,
to
you
be
do.
in that
and hence
packet.
why I'm not on a few of
See,
them.
that's why I don't, because I don't think it's dishonest. I think it's very fair, and the way that you choose to spend your marketing dollars is totally fine. But for me, that's also why I'm not on.
No,
you know,
like
that
when
very popular wedding planning website that starts with a K. That's also
Not
why
on
I
it.
choose,
But
because
the feeling I got when looking at this person and he says, "I need to put you on that list," I was like,
me, little old me,
okay, like you're right, you missing out. Your brides are missing out.
And
Like,
it's so I'm gonna go ahead and tell the story of how I may or may not be banned from a venue. I don't really know. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I kind of had a conversation with the coordinator who was there, and I still had 25 minutes to take my pictures according to the timeline I was provided. And she was telling me that we were done with pictures, and I was like, no. I have an obligation to my clients, and
I have a
I'm
contract.
going with my clients on this one. And she proceeded to argue with me, and I said, we can argue about this later, but right now I'm wasting time. I have pictures today. And there was no reason why I couldn't continue doing what I needed to do. There was no reason other than the private dinner started at 6 and it was 5:35. I have 25 minutes. Every minute matters on your wedding day.
I'm gonna pause you. There's a line item on my packet that I send my brides with my pricing and stuff. and it specifically says, act as a representative for my couple. Now, this could be to photographers, this could be to venues, this could be to the DJ, this could be to that baker. I had to act as a representative and make that ultimate decision on what I thought. So with that, if I would have been there and that would have been happening, I already have your contract on my Google Drive. I could have pulled that up and been like, and the timeline.
Yep.
You had a chance to say, no, whatever time I say pictures done or done, we would have discussed that beforehand,
Right.
and then I still would have been like, no,
Yeah.
they're gonna get all their stuff.
Yeah. But don't waste my time when I'm actively working.
Yeah.
And you're arguing with me in front of, and I don't do that. Like,
No.
if you have beef with me, that's fine. We can discuss it later. But like, you're not gonna argue with me in front of everybody when I have a job to do.
Yeah.
And this was also a venue who had told my photo, so they did photo booth. And so the photo booth shows up, and I tell him, set up in this spot, because I've talked to the bride,
Yeah.
this is where she wants it, like whatever. Well, before I ever got to him, the venue coordinator goes up to him and says, oh no, you're setting up over here. And I went to him and I said, okay, don't ever listen to anybody but me.
Yeah.
Because, and that's fine if the bride wanted it over there. But I just find that there's a lack of communication.
And
that
see,
it's
that
not-
layout would have been discussed and finalized.
Yep.
The photo booths 9 out of 10 time asks me where they're setting up.
Right.
They typically already want to know. But not only that, I have an assistant who is at the reception area who has the timeline on her phone.
And they're waiting for
And
those
that
people to show
layout.
up. They're going, okay, photo booth should be here in 3 minutes.
And
let me go meet them.
let's go clear that space if there's something in the way. And not saying the venue wouldn't do that, but there would have just been that initiative. Like I said, she probably had, if this was a Saturday, she probably had a wedding on a Friday. And she probably had a wedding the weekend before and the weekend, and she has one coming up. And so this is just one of 6 that are happening.
Right.
And so it could have been easily that she was thinking of the wedding the night before, the wedding coming up.
Yeah,
that
for
the
sure.
venue, the photo booth was supposed to be somewhere else.
Yeah. And I will say, like, as a whole, she was someone who I don't have
Yeah.
any beef with them.
Right.
Like, you know, I apologize
just
for my part, and
yeah.
you know, I hope that we can do better next time. But it's also like that just goes to show you where the priorities lie. Because if I was the coordinator in that space, I would have said, you know what, hold on just 1 second. Let me go double check with the bride real quick, and then I'll confirm.
And see, even then, there should never have been a check with the bride.
There shouldn't have been.
And
but
so
just
there's-
in terms of communication,
Right.
effective communication, like why did that not happen? Well, and also, why are you telling my employee what to do?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, if you have beef, you need to come to me.
Right. Now, my assistant, and that's a different situation. That's your photo booth, your whatever. My assistant knows. She's certified just as I am. She knows when you're in that space, you are me.
Yeah.
You are an extension of me. We have the same qualifications.
Right.
She wants to go start her own business. She could. She won't, but she could. You also know who my assistant is. But when she's in that reception space, and if I'm at the ceremony, if it would be a church or whatever the case may be, she's an extension of me, and what she says goes.
Right.
And if she's not sure, she calls me.
Right.
And then what I say goes. And if someone wants to go back and forth, she goes, hold on, and hands the phone to them. And I talk to them straight up. Here's what's going on.
Because on that day, you're an extension of who?
The bride and her and her family, her parents, the people who are paying. Even though they're not my direct clients, it's I go check on grandma, make sure she got water and she's not dehydrated in the summer heat. Like these things are what happens. I have been turned down so many times because they are going with their venue coordinator. Because it happens to be an all-inclusive thing. Okay, but ask those questions.
Right.
What do they do?
Right.
What do they truly do? You had a consultation with me. Are you read over my packages? How does it compare to what they're doing?
Right.
And is it an extra measly $500
And
fee?
the small things matter. The small things matter.
Do you
because-
want to save your top tier of your cake?
Yeah. And you know what's so funny is that's not just the standard thing.
No.
Like, those are conversations you
And
have to have.
typically it's yes, but if it needs to be cut, cut it.
Yeah.
Do you want to get bustled right after? Do you
Right.
want to get your dress bustled right after the ceremony or after your first dance?
And even to think of like your veil. Are you taking it on? You leaving it off? What are we doing with it?
Are you changing shoes? How many dress changes
Yeah.
are you gonna do?
Yeah.
The top tier of the cake is a big one. Are you preserving your bouquet?
Yeah.
Because if so, we're sticking it in a vase of water.
Right.
And I need to package it up later.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so one of the reasons I wanted to just like have a casual conversation with you about this is because it's so like it's just such a big topic.
And
It's something
it's not that nobody knows.
Yeah, and I find myself as my career moves on, I find myself taking on a lot more responsibilities on the wedding day when there's not a private coordinator.
Yes, and I will say,
I'm the one that's going, oh, you don't have a drink in your hand. Let me go grab you a drink. Oh, wait, you need me to bustle your dress? You need me to cut your face?
And let me tell
all
you,
those things. And they have
there is
coordinators.
many times I am underneath this girl's dress trying to find a little loop to bustle.
Yep.
We get up close and personal.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that venue coordinator is not getting underneath your dress to find.
No, guess who's doing it? Mom and
Photographer,
sister.
sister.
Yeah. Because
And-
the likelihood that the coordinator's actually going to be there when the dress gets bustled.
No, because they're worried if the bar's open.
Yep. Is the bar open? Are
Is
the
the buff-
appetizers going around? Is the DJ? Well, probably not even worried about the DJ. He's just gonna, as long as music's coming out of the
Some
speaker.
are. But
Oh.
if they know them.
Yeah.
But-
And then also too, when you have a coordinator who isn't coordinating, you know, they may be doing things that are important. It's not to say
And
that
look,
they're just sitting there.
Whenever I'm coordinating, I'm gonna look to see if that buffet's open because if we talked about it,
Right.
and I'm gonna make sure there's drinks flowing because that's the first thing people are going to do. But I'm also caring about you.
Yeah.
I'm also caring about this timeline and my vendors. What are my vendors doing? But they're actually going in the kitchen saying, "Come on, get passing." I'm not going out in their
Right.
kitchen to say that.
No, absolutely not.
Now, if it's like way like they've been supposed to do it.
And really, I guess like a venue coordinator is better defined as like a venue manager.
They should always say
Because
venue manager.
Because you're right. They're making sure that the bus boys are taking food off the table, and they're making sure that the cooks have whatever out, and they're making sure that the bartenders are bartending, and
So, and here's
spills
also,
get cleaned up and things like
this
that.
is a personal experience as a bride, okay? I got married March of 2021. I now have an item sheet that my clients have to fill out that say what personal items you're bringing in, what box are they in, what needs to come back after, and whose vehicle is it going in.
Yep.
I had a sign-in bench, so it was a big bench that turned into a picnic table too, and I had people sign on the bench. I had my husband's aunt call us the next day. Why do I have a bench in the back of my car? And we're like, what? She has a Suburban. I'm like, what? And they were like, yeah, we have the bench in the back. Not a Suburban, a truck. We have a bench in the back of the truck. And I'm like, that was supposed to be with my dad. We're in Gatlinburg, like, we're not coming get it.
Yeah.
I'll have to get it when we get back. So now I know what personal items are theirs, what's coming home, and is it Uncle Bob's truck? Because we're going to get Uncle Bob's truck,
Right.
and we're loading it there, and you know where he's going.
Yeah.
Whereas venue coordinator, just our drunk
They're
groomsmen, they
shit
were
up by the door, and they're telling the groomsmen, go put this
go
in the car, go
put it,
this where it
and
goes.
it happened to be his truck was there with the tail,
Yeah.
and they just loaded
And
it
they're
up.
like, all right,
This works.
We'll get in touch with them.
So with that, you don't need to know, oh, my cake topper's at so-and-so's house and this is there and I don't know where my money dance money is at.
Right.
And we've discussed all of that.
Yeah.
Where
See, and I'm so glad you said that. So that literally happened at this last venue, and I'm like, so the money dance is over, and remember, we're on crunch time.
Yeah.
Like we have an hour to get everything done.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, we need to get into the garter toss. I got the chair. I'm the one putting the chair in the middle, and they got a lot of money. And I say, okay, I'm gonna give this to your mama. And here, give me all your money.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I take them off all the pins, and they already know I'm either whether we're already designating that or it's going straight to your parents.
Right.
And then your parents allot where it goes.
Right.
Because they probably don't care if they miss a bouquet toss, which that's a little, normally for me, it's spread out where there's plenty of time to add in a few line dances in between and whatnot, but I have my forms.
Yeah.
I have the things, I have the
do
portals and
do
things.
the legwork, and that's not to, again, that's not to say that some
we're not
venue
bashing
coordinators-
them, but we just are educating so y'all know
that there is a difference in responsibilities and expectations. You know, a lot of the times brides, they're expecting their venue coordinator to be a private planner.
Yeah.
And they're not.
And then also, this is just my personal thing, not necessarily having to do with the photographer or venue coordinator. If a private planner, I don't even like having to say this, if a private planner is a cheaper option, that is totally fine. If I do not fit in your budget, I am okay with that. But I want you to ask why.
Yeah.
I want you to still get on a consultation with me and let me explain it. And then on your $500 or $400, $600, $700 coordinator, why?
Yeah.
Why are
And
they?
I like that you mentioned that because so one of the things that I'm sure people get irritated about is on my website, I don't list my full pricing. I'm not ever going to list my full pricing.
I'm not going to list it on there either.
Because you get you're not just getting a photographer when you hire me. You're
getting a wedding bestie.
I can never sell the value that I deliver on a website. That is not something that I will ever want to do or something that I can do, because when you hire Hoppy Images, you're not just hiring a photographer. And that's okay if you want just a photographer.
Yeah, if you want
but
someone to
I'm
show
not
up.
the person for you.
No.
Because I want to know you. I want to vibe with you. I want to, when I show up on your wedding day, you're like, oh my God, hey
You're
girl,
here, yes.
I'm so excited. Like, let me tell you all the things that we've done today. You know,
Yes.
I want that. I'm in the business of relationships.
We are the same.
I am not
and
in the
I've
business
had,
of photographs.
Look, I've had people say, I just need you to coordinate. Where they not looking to be my friend. Now, I have some, we are friends. I have some clients, we never spoke again.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. Because I'm not supposed to be friends with everybody.
Right.
You know, I have to keep telling myself that.
But you know, business is so much better when you're friends with your vendor.
And
Or,
look,
I'm sorry, your wedding is so much better when you're friends with your
the
vendors.
bar that didn't show up that wedding, she is one of my biggest supporters.
Really?
And that was right when I started, and she
you know
paid
what
my
sucks is-
lowest price.
And you
but
know what sucks is like
she's here for it.
Are you saying your bride was your biggest supporter?
My bride.
Okay, I was gonna say now you're not referring nobody to that bartender.
Oh no, her business is closed.
Oh, okay. Well, there
She
you go.
is shut down.
And that they do.
But
okay, speaking of that, like, and again, we're going off topic. I wonder how long we've been talking. I don't even know. But now I had a brain fart. What were we talking about?
You got yourself off topic.
I know. I'm sorry.
Biggest supporters. Brides, bartenders, shut down.
It was something about, I cannot tell you. So I've had at least, I'm going to say at least 2 experiences. I think it's probably 3, where either a planner or a bride reached out to me and said, hey, we hired a photographer. We haven't heard from him in a year. Are you available on our date? And I go,
Oh my God.
how much did you, what did just go, how much did you pay for them?
And that
they
is
tell me, and I go,
stupid.
okay, well, that's
Red
why.
flag.
So like when we talk about like, wow, like there's a price tag attached to it, it's because there is a commitment there.
Not
Like,
only,
let me
okay,
tell
but wait,
you.
not only commitment, but I have the portal, I have all my forms, I am certified. We're gonna have at least 2 to 3 meetings in person where it's probably ending up with lunch and you're getting a free lunch.
Yeah.
And that's just me.
As part of your
that's me.
experience,
That's how
yeah.
I grew up. Like, it's hospitality. And you get a gift. Now my full planning, they get a gift, okay? But all of my month ofs, for the most part, get a gift.
Yeah.
Now, it might be something small, but it's still a handwritten note from me that I took the time
that
to do.
personalization. It's that feeling like a person and feeling like you're part
This is
of,
your
like,
one
a-
experience.
Like you have that connection, and that's
You
valuable.
mean, my brides mean something to me.
Yeah.
And you get this experience once, and I know as a bride, I wanted to be seen, I wanted to be heard, I wanted to be pampered,
Yep.
I wanted my day to truly be all about me.
Yeah.
And damn it, if I don't walk into that hotel room or bridal suite, hi everybody, and I'm heading straight to you.
Yep.
You might be in the makeup seat, and I'm saying, hey, can I just interrupt 1 second?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey girl,
Yeah.
like, here's a little something for me. Or if they typically get at the rehearsal,
Yeah.
but still, here's a little something for me. Don't open it now. You can look at
Right.
it later. But it's just, you have weekly calls with me. That's at least an hour a week that you have me.
Yeah.
You get my travel to you at the beginning, your first meeting, that venue meeting, and then rehearsal.
And all the
like,
little times that you text me and go, oh wait, I think I like this bouquet better. Like, what do you think about this? Or, oh, I found this florist. What do you
and
think
that's
about this?
and
Or-
that process I just said was just coordinator. Planner, girl, you are taking half my income. Like, I am giving it to you. Like, I always tell my people that book me, my investment is gonna be saved in the long run because you're gonna get good quality.
Yeah.
Or by working with me, vendors tend to be like, all right, I'm gonna give you this, but here's the package, but I'm gonna throw this in because you're working with a planner.
Right, exactly.
So many times. Speaking of, I have talked to several photographers who are actually going, if you're not working with a coordinator, they're gonna charge you a fee to have to do the timeline.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah, that is something. And that, I get it. I get it because
Photographers are photographers,
but
not
see,
coordinators.
Exactly. But see, it goes back to, it keeps going back to pricing. It always goes back to pricing
Always.
because you may not be paying for that. So yeah, it's fair for them to charge an additional service fee. Whereas me, I'm gonna include it all. Like, I'm including it all. If you're not paying extra for travel,
Yeah.
I'm gonna travel up to 4 hours to get to your wedding.
I got it.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
I mean, all of those things are happening, and so those are the types of clients that I enjoy because I want to be involved. I'm an involved person, and so it makes more sense for me to just include that as just
Also-
like part of my service.
With a coordinator, your photographer can get those fun shots that you saw on Pinterest that you
Because
really
she's
want.
not worried
Because
about
she's
what's
not-
happening next. Yeah, she's not worried about, okay, is the cake table even ready? She's not worried about,
Yeah.
do you want your bouquet around the cake or
Yeah.
not? Like, I mean, like all of those things that really, like, a planner is able to get into the weeds of it and get all of that ahead of time. Because there are a million and one questions that I could ask, but I don't, because my assumption is that you're going to discuss these with other people.
Yeah.
And there is something, look, when I go to the doctor, there is nothing more that I hate than I gotta fill out the form. Well,
Oh.
first, when I call, I gotta tell you why I'm there.
Well,
Then when I go, I gotta fill out the form to tell you why I'm there.
And then you
I
gotta tell the nurse.
while I'm there. And then I gotta tell the doctor.
Well, again, yeah.
And that just drives me
Oh, so
bonkers.
you're here for a bump on your leg? Yes.
Yeah. As
Or
I told
does it itch?
4 other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, is it a mosquito bite? Quite possibly.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So, like, in that pre kind of like wedding stuff, I really just kind of stick to photography related type stuff, and that is where your planner, your dedicated planner, will come in. And like you said, I mean, because there are those personal connections with other vendors, the vendor knows what type of experience they're gonna have, and if it's an easy one, well, then it's not gonna cost me as much to work that wedding because there's already a
Right.
dedicated person.
Right.
So,
You don't have to put more time to it.
yeah. Well, all right. Well,
Yes.
that is all. We're going to wrap up today's segment. God knows how long we've been going, but thank you so much, Lindsay,
You're
for meeting me at
You're
Willie's
welcome.
today. And let's just do like a cheers.